it feels like everyone's kind of like avoiding turning a critical eye to this. I don't know why everyone in like mainstream media is, because this is like, we're talking about like Swedish family royal visit. One of them has ties to the Nazi party in Sweden, is here selling arms on behalf of a company that that has scandal everywhere it goes. Okay, folks, we are back. Welcome back to Local 514. I'm your host, Kalden Dhatsenpa. Today, I'm joined by Nashwa Lina Khan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Nashwa, tell me a bit about the work you've done.
So I'm a researcher, community organizer, and facilitator. And right now I mostly research at federal nonprofits around disability justice and Indigenous issues. So that's kind of the hat I'm wearing these days.
It is. But today I have you wearing sort of the anti-royalty crown. How'd you describe it?
You know, it's a natural progression because I have a anti-monarchy podcast called Habibti, Please.
Is it officially anti-monarchy?
I'm stamping it that way today.
Boom. Look at that. Exclusive announcement here on Local 514.
Yes, Habibti Please is coming out as anti-monarchy. And yeah, so today we're wearing that hat because for some reason we had some people visiting our lovely city.
Some people. We had, as the title of the episode should inform you, we had the Swedish royals visiting Montreal, Ottawa, and Canada in general for a little 3-day visit. I was like, okay, yeah. When I'm trying to do my usual scan, my raking through the news, I'm trying to see what can we talk about on Local 514. What does the Local 514 audience need to know about? And I saw this thing about Swedish royals, and I was like, man, maybe this could be a quick thing. It was not a quick thing. Because the more we looked into it, the weirder it was, and the more surprised I was that people were not talking about this visit.
Yeah.
I guess not just because it's just a cute little visit, but because there's like, I think, much broader implications about Canada's military-industrial complex, Sweden's own kind of like positioning as a humanitarian arms exporter, which is like, I think you said yourself, kind of an oxymoron.
Huge oxymoron.
Yeah.
Huge contradiction.
It's just, we just can't, it's like one of those like rabbit holes I kept digging into. And I was surprised at every corner. So Nashwa and I took our time and did some digging and found out a lot of stuff that we're going to share today. I guess just off the bat, what did you think about just when you first saw the headline? What was your reaction? Swedish royal family visiting Canada for 3 days.
So I was confused. And I was confused because what do we naturally affiliate Sweden with? Why would they be coming to Canada? What would
Ikea.
they bring? Yes, Ikea.
Maybe they're coming to open up a new Ikea store.
Nice linens, outdoor spas, cinnamon buns.
Horror movies.
Yes, and we expect maybe Princess Nokia and Montreal to come through on a tour, but no, we get Princess Ikea.
Oh.
Princess Ikea. And
good.
she's here to assemble weapons and partnerships
That's
and
right.
12 easy steps and an Allen key.
That's right. Make sure you start assembling it on the carpet.
Yeah. And so I was puzzled. I think you were puzzled. I think others. And I think it didn't get its due diligence in mainstream media. If anything, CBC, Global News, City News.
Yeah.
The National was just very crazy about it, very normalizing
People
of
are just
it.
kind of like, oh, isn't it cute that they're here? You know?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like very matter-of-factly where I felt no one was even digging deeper. Because even it's like, I mean, it's just poor journalism because it's like, I just did like maybe 5 minutes of research, like 5 minutes into, sorry, I did more than 5 minutes of research.
I was going to say, please don't say that.
5 minutes into my research, I'm uncovering stuff about how the Swedish arms manufacturer that we'll talk about has like corruption cases like that go from like the UK, South Africa, the Czech Republic, the United Arab Emirates, like everywhere that this Swedish arms manufacturer has been, there's been corruption investigations that have followed. And to me, I'm looking in the direction of these journalists in Montreal and Canada. I'm like, guys, this is an easy question to pose to like Melanie Joly and all the federal people who are trying to like bring them this company here. Is like, well, how are you going to assure that this corruption won't happen here in Canada. But who knows? People just seem to be, I don't know, just taking it, just not really criticizing it at all.
Well, I want to bring up that this is like not a neutral ceremonial visit.
Yes.
And since the Carney government has come into power, we've had a few weird visits that are shaping Canada to fit back, and I would say align back into a kind of historical, archaic system of being okay with monarchy and imperialism in a new way that's very very like trying to mask, but it's so mask off. Like, why was King Charles here for the ceremony?
People were treating that as if it was
yes,
such
I was
a
in
big...
Ottawa. I saw it. I was there.
People were like, "Oh yeah, we got Trump by inviting the king."
Yeah.
It's like, what? So we have to get like the other, like this
I
other
was in
figure who
Ottawa
has
for that.
not Canadian, and we pretend like this is some big like.
And it was so
FU.
scary to see people dressed up for it in the hats and like it was actually really scary because I didn't think we had that energy here. But I want to like say with the Swedes, not a neutral visit, a ceremonial monarchy visit. They weren't just here to like see maple syrup and like, you know, do the things that Harry and Meghan did. They were here on a very specific mission that I want you to talk to me about.
Yes.
About this diplomacy that they want to establish with military diplomacy. Like, what is this genre of diplomacy that we're seeing that's not just visiting to say hi and kiki?
Yeah. They are here as sort of corporate lobbyists for a Swedish arms manufacturer. So that's the thing that really surprised me when I was looking at these, the first instances of me like kind of scraping around for news articles where I was like, oh, Swedish royal family visiting. I was like, this is like so like C-tier news. I was like, who cares? But then I would see like they came here specifically to talk about fighter jets. They're trying to pitch Canada on buying some fighter jets. And this has been something like, to give a little more context, like because of all the trade sort of like war, or maybe not trade war, but like kind of like the stuff with the tariffs, right? And Trump, Carney told his team, all right, guys, like let's reconsider, let's review this supposed 88, the purchase of 88 F-35 fighter jets from American company Lockheed Martin. And after that review, Sweden is here like, hey, baby, consider us. Remember us. You guys like Ikea? Yeah, we got jets too. And so these two Swedish royals were here trying to, I guess, just pitch the government on why we should buy the Saab Gripen jet.
And for those who don't know, can you tell us what a Saab Gripen is?
I would love to.
Because I think people are more familiar with the F-35 given campaigns that have been happening around. But what's a Gripen, and why should we be worried that they're going to start hitting Canada in 3 to 5 years? Is the estimate from CBC actually?
Yeah. So they're saying, Saab is saying that Canada could get. Well, I mean, the interesting thing about this, it's not just the purchase of these Gripen jets. Because there's this kind of older class of Canadian fighter jets that are kind of like reaching age and they need to be sort of decommissioned. That's for me personally, I think for most of our audience, not really quite a huge concern.
It's not a P1.
No.
Not a P1 in Q4.
Ain't a P1. Guess what? That is, put that at the bottom of the pitch deck.
Triage that. Like our hospital weight room. Like our hospital
Remind them. So the Saab JASS 39 Gripen fighter jet is a sort of this kind of new generation of fighter jets that was produced by Swedish designers. Currently, they are being made both in Sweden and also in Brazil. They kind of opened up some production there, and currently they are in talks of not just selling them to Canada, but also developing some of the jets here.
Yeah,
that's something the Swedes are saying, or they're saying, okay, listen, if you buy the jets, guess what? Just because we like you, we're gonna bring some of the production here. And with that, they do that because then they can say like, oh, we're creating jobs, you know. Like when they expanded like the production in Brazil, it was the same claim, you know, we're gonna bring this kind of like very high tech, first world country kind of production to you, increase it, and you get to benefit from that economically. So it's like you're buying it, but you're kind of putting the money back into your own economy. Is the pitch. There's a lot of YouTube videos online about the Saab Gripen. There's a lot of like you'll have those kinds of like, you know, like the history nerds. I've kind of discovered this little subsection of like war nerds, and like they're kind of debating on like Here's why the Saab Gripen is better than the
Everyone has a role in
F-35.
society.
Yeah.
I need someone to analyze that because I'm not. Everyone plays a role
Everyone plays
in a
a role.
community.
And you have these people out there who are kind of, I guess, just having fun doing a bunch of this very tech-heavy research about these fighter jets. So, I mean, if I can become a Saab salesman right now, they talk about how the Gripen jet is like really tech heavy in a way that it's like it's easy to upgrade. It gets upgrades every week because the issue with older ones that were less software focused was that they would kind of become outdated in big chunks, where Saab says their jets is actually going to be able to be like updated on the weekly, and it's not like there's going to be some big period of time where it becomes outdated and then it's a larger capital investment to
That's
make
kind of scary though.
No,
Something that can be innovated every week by week is a bit scary.
Well, it's like our phones,
to
right?
be a human in the world. With this kind of technology that does that. And so, can you tell me about some of the scandals they've had? Because the way we came across this is honestly from, I was so ignorant. I thought Saab was just a car company, but like many things,
I love the cars.
there's an expanded universe for all of these corporations and capitalism to be invested in so many other things. So just like when you decide to use some AI, it's actually probably killing people, right? So there's all these pieces. So I want to know about why this car company actually is so much more malicious in its other work.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting because I think the story of Saab does sort of mimic a lot of the car industry where like, I mean, I don't know if people or viewers are familiar with Saabs. Maybe I'll have like a nice picture of a Saab right here.
And you want to tell people how much you love this car?
I do love that car. That car that you're looking at is a Saab 900 convertible. I think these cars are gorgeous. If you watch the movie, the Japanese film Drive My Car, the Saab 900 is featured in it. It's a gorgeous car. Sort of like, it's not like a fast car, but I think it's just very nicely made. Looks great. As I was saying, the story of Saab is very similar to the story of a lot of other car companies, and in that it has this real close connection to whatever country's like military industrial complex. So I mean, a lot of times, the actual industry you need to produce a car is going to be very similar to the industry you need to produce war machines. That's not just like tanks, of course, but it's also just kind of like Jeeps. You know, Jeep famously is one of them that started off as a sort of a wartime truck. GM, that was another big one in the war. In Japan, Mitsubishi was making their fighter planes, and in Sweden, Saab was making old fighter jets. And eventually, the company one branch of the company split off, made cars. Those cars eventually stopped selling well. GM bought the Saab division, and then eventually they just shut down that car side together. But they're still making the jets. Remember, there used to be old like Saab commercials where it's like, Saab engineers make fighter jets. Buy a Saab because you're buying a car made by like rocket scientists. And I always thought that was kind of like cool. And it does sort of mimic the kind of is that funny?
I appreciate your humor.
No problem. And it kind of, what I find is interesting, it kind of mimics the marketing that they do about these jets. You know, people, the Saab old slogan was like, Saab, the car for intelligent people.
Yeah.
And even I saw this like clip of like the Swedish deputy prime minister trying to sell people on like the Swedish arms industry, and they're like, listen, we're a small country, but we're very smart.
Yeah. Well, I think that's trying to tap into people's like, you know,
their
subconscious
idea
of like wanting
exactly.
to be smart and be perceived through material purchases and capitalism and what capitalism feeds you. But like, I really want to know about Saab's militarism aspect beyond the cool cars and the deals they've done in other countries, the kind of havoc they've wreaked, because we see like the remnants of imperialism follows all of these companies wherever they go.
Absolutely. I guess I can only talk about my favorite car on this show. So I mean, let's just get right into the scandals. So like I said before, everywhere that Saab has sort of sold its Gripen jet, and it's been selling them pretty steadily since the 2000s, because that's when they sort of wrapped up the production of them, the design of them. There's been like scandal everywhere. The biggest one that's followed Saab was sort of the South Africa arms deal. So this is like post-apartheid. To give a little context, post-apartheid South Africa. The South African government is looking to procure some jets. Initially, Saab is cut out of that deal because they were looking at the price of it, and they're like, "That's not going to be good enough." But then the defense minister, after a bit of time, removes that kind of cost requirement, and then they end up selling to Saab. I think they ended up selling something like 26 jets to the South African state. And what came out was that Saab and a bunch of other arms manufacturers who were sort of involved in this deal were bribing officials.
Okay.
So some of these officials, let me name them.
So why would they suddenly stop doing that here? I want people to pause and think about why we're doing this historical tracking, because people don't shift or change. And then I'll get a bit into the two royals who visited, but go ahead.
No. I mean, that's exactly the point where
let's populate some thoughts here.
Every like if they're doing this, so I mean, I talk about the South Africa case. So this involved the deputy president of South Africa, later president. This involved the Minister of Defense, the aide to the deputy president, and then the president, and also the ANC parliamentary leader who was convicted of fraud for bribe taking, as well as, and then also a defense consultant as well. And we're talking about this was the arms deal was around $6 billion US.
Okay.
And
wow.
the actual
for 26 jets.
Yeah.
It's
26.
wild.
It's because it's a lot of these deals, and this also includes the Canadian one.
Maybe
as
I'm
well.
like a poor person who doesn't invest in big military, but 26 jets for that much sounds like a bad deal.
It
sounds corrupt. It sounds corrupt.
I want wholesale. I want to going to Costco, buying a bunch of them.
I want Costco business on this one.
But we don't. I think that and it's also the actual amount of money totally involved in the scandal and the bribes. They estimate to be around 300 million. Some say, but this is from what they were finding, and they say that's a conservative estimate as well. And I think the interesting thing is Saab has been trying to distance itself from it naturally, right? They're trying to blame this one of their subsidiaries that they're like, oh, this is the UK kind of client that we have who was sort of doing this without us knowing. But then in leaked police reports, the CEO of that company was like, actually, no. The CEO was like, no, I told Saab everything. And Saab, all the Saab executive would have to approve on the amounts that we're giving to these kinds of agents, on these bribes. They would know exactly who we're giving it to, as well as who's giving them. So the actual leaked police report kind of goes against the Saab position on it. And so that's just South Africa. You also have something like the Czech Republic and Hungary. So those are two places that are either leasing or actually buying the planes outright. And it's something like, there's, again, more bribes there. It's 12.6 million euros in alleged bribes paid to politicians in Central Europe to sway them to buy the Gripen. There's been no penalties for Saab in either of those places. I think there seems BAE Systems, which is one of those. So I was saying this before, where when you buy a jet, you're not just buying the jet, right? You have to buy sort of the education for the jets. You have to buy a whole kind of infrastructure that supports someone eventually going into the jet, flying the jet, maintaining the jet, and that's kind of what's part of that arms
this
deal as
isn't
well.
any Top Gun,
Yeah. No, exactly.
24-hour cycle, yeah.
And so the thing is, the interesting. So that's just two cases of some cases of the corruption. There's also ongoing investigations going on in Brazil, because there's sort of big questions about because Saab also opened what Saab did in Brazil is kind of mirroring
what's happening in Canada with the bid, which is also why I want people to tap into this, because
Yeah.
it's a bigger thing where we're going to be like,
because it's a lot
how
of
did
the
this all
same-
happen?
It's a lot of the same arguments, because when they went to Brazil, they're like, we're promising you tens of thousands of jobs. Same thing here in Canada. In Canada, they're promising 10,000 jobs. But in Brazil, where they've actually been able to set up and then hire people, instead of the 14,000 jobs they promised Brazil, there's only 260. And when the Saab people, when the Swedish representatives are asked about this, they're like, oh, but there's so many jobs that are created along the supply chain, But I think it's a far cry from the tens of thousands that you're promising, And if it's going to be a repeat of Brazil, then Canada can also be expecting the number falling short of that. It's quite the big pitch. Yeah, I don't know. It's to me, there's so many. So that's just the corruption angle, right? What's up? Then there's also the angle about just Sweden's role in trying to support this, right? Because it's sort of if Sweden is this new member of NATO, and now they're okay, let's kind of let's get that NATO money, let's also be a player in the kind of military tech industry world. And they're just trying to take a slice of the pie that let's say Lockheed Martin has or Boeing, and that's one of the reasons they're here.
Yeah. And I think what's important here is that Canada is doing what Sweden also talks about itself as, like purporting itself as this progressive nation.
Yes.
Carney and his Canada Strong budget, it has pivoted and it's an austerity budget, quite frankly. Yet there's room for this type of work, but we still purport ourselves like Carney's government has kind of soft denied allegations about arms, but we're saying actually, like we're seeing reports from quite a few organizations, CJPME, Arms Embargo Now, Palestinian Youth Movement, World Beyond War, saying actually like, no, we have arms coming out of here. But I do want to like take a few steps back to talk to the audience, because this was like C-list news, but it's super important. So Carl Gustaf is like the longest reigning monarch in Swedish history.
Oh yeah, that's the Swedish king.
Yeah. So and his wife, Queen Sylvia, who's known for philanthropy, is also the daughter of a Nazi party member.
Oh.
And the thing that's like kind of bananas is that she commissioned a personal investigation on her father and his Nazi past, because Swedish media tried to like do this whole like soft, like we're a soft bean, small bean country. And he took over a bunch of Jewish owned businesses under suspicious circumstances. And they said like, no, he set up the Jewish person and let them help them escape and all this stuff. And so the transfer of the Jewish-owned property under Nazi rule was not actually a favor for the guy to escape, obviously.
But hold on.
The reason I'm talking about this, so go ahead.
This is the Swedish queen's dad.
Yeah, and she was here selling arms to us.
Yeah.
And the reason,
we're painting a picture here.
yeah, and I am painting this picture because also I just want people to be media critical, because you want to know CBC's headline on this whole thing?
Tell me.
During this whole visit, it was the Swedish queen's father helped Jew escape Nazis.
Oh.
He was a Nazi. He helped them escape because he wanted all the Jewish person's property.
Right, yeah.
So he was like,
let me buy you the ticket out of here.
Yeah, like he helped the guy escape Germany by offering him assets in South America in exchange for his whole company, instead of just like stopping being a Nazi as an official. Like some scholars in the Jewish community have disputed this framing, but this Queen Sylvia, because of her like benevolence culture, even around these weapons, which is, I want you to talk about the Nordic policy on weapons and what they purport and how they purport themselves. She claims to be a philanthropist, but very similar to Chrystia Freeland, who maybe we'll touch base on, Nazi family, Nazi heritage. You don't get that out in a generation or two, in my honest opinion.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
commissioning your own report.
I know. Yeah.
And CBC, our public media broadcaster, framing it as Swedish Queen's father helped Jew escape Nazis.
It feels like everyone's kind of like avoiding turning a critical eye to this. I don't know why everyone in like mainstream media is, because this is like, we're talking about like Swedish family royal visit. One of them has ties to the Nazi party in Sweden. Is here selling arms on behalf of a company that has scandal everywhere it goes. And I'm like, how are people putting out these cute little puff pieces about this? Like
it's a puff piece.
I don't know how all these other journalists can like just even like do. And is it people not doing research about it? Is it just they don't care? I don't know. But to me, it's a glaring omission to kind of not talk about this stuff.
Also, the Queen's cousin is a Nazi too. Like actively, her dad joined the party.
It's just like a one-off.
Yeah, it's just like. She's really benefited from Nazi policies that were anti-Jewish. Yeah. And so historians have been like, hey, this is kind of funky, but like because Sweden has this reputation, nobody thinks about this. And
well, I mean, it's a thing where, I think when we think of like European powers, and this is going to go away from a little bit of the Montreal folks, but when we think of like European powers, we think of the countries that were just directly colonial, right? Like you had like the Great Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, of course. And then at later points, Italy and Germany, which is trying. People forget the Nordic countries are also implicated in that, right? They didn't have their own actual colonies, but their role in that scheme was just kind of like making money off the colonizers, right? And this is sort of, I find, where we're at today, still a reflection of that.
Yeah, and I want to can we talk a bit about their itinerary while they were here? Now we know who these two are.
Yeah, all right. So
it is a little odd for a king and queen to be doing this kind of footwork for a company that's done these things in other countries. So let's talk about the itinerary, Kalden.
I think the reason it's the king and queen is because of the corruption, right? So now this is like pure like tin. Actually, this is not tinfoil hat stuff. This is, I think, like probably a safe guess I have based on my PR knowledge. If you have a king and queen doing business on behalf of this company that's mired in scandal, people are less likely to criticize a king and queen. compared to if it's going to be some other people who are already too embroiled in corruption.
People hate criticizing a king and queen. That's true.
They're just like, what are you talking about? I remember when I was looking up research, because I was like, oh, I wonder why. The last time they came here in like 2006, it seemed like to be mostly a cute visit. They visited some companies. There's a bit of that kind of like corporate lobbying,
Yeah.
but it was mostly kind of a cultural visit. And I remember I found this forum where people were like, oh my God, yay, I'm so happy the royals are visiting. And I was just like, guys, come on. Like, this looks
Yeah.
terrible.
That's like when your brain hasn't developed its frontal lobe or something.
Yeah,
Or you
yeah,
like
yeah.
monarchy.
Well, I mean, I find the monarchy stuff, like liking the monarchy is kind of like, it's like celebrity culture, right? It's like
yeah,
people
yeah.
who are like
Sorry,
really...
yeah. You can have a frontal lobe. I'm sorry. I take that back.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We hear you. Yeah. Rescinded. But
I'm sorry.
it's kind of like it's like this kind of like big gossip culture thing, right? It's like, oh, you have these celebs and people like
Yeah.
to like project, oh, they're just like us, you know. Except they do it at like whatever, like the peak of like celebrity, which is of course being a monarch.
Princess Diana wore bike shorts.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, it all inhabits the same kind of like.
I love her
sphere.
though.
Of course, she's the people's princess.
R.I.P. Yes,
everyone loves her.
R.I.P. Queen.
That's why they got her. Anyways, yeah. So this was a 3-day visit. They stopped in Ottawa, of course. Their Montreal stop included meeting with the premier, Mr. Legault.
Yeah, and I have a few places they went to.
So did they go to Barbara or
I wish they went to. I wish they went to that bar for Concordia.
Reggie's?
No, the other one.
The bar for Concordia.
Doesn't matter.
We have so many bars.
It
We
doesn't
have
matter.
Reggie's. We have McKibben's. There's Grumpy's nearby.
Should have gone to Bruno's.
Bruno's. Yeah,
Sports bar.
That would have been fun.
No, but they went to Bombardier. They went to the CDPQ, which I can't pronounce because I'm not from.
Yeah, the Caisse de Dépôt.
Yeah,
That's
and
like the,
they went to Mila, which is super interesting because that's a Quebec AI institute for anybody who doesn't know. And Mila has been really rising in the last few years in Quebec, and they kind of try to show that they're into AI in a also human-facing way. But I find it really interesting that two diplomats that can do something as powerful as selling fighter jets go to Mila of all places. It's a very, unassuming place in Mile X, if anybody knows Montreal well.
right next to Little Italy.
Yeah.
It's in this big building that's sort of in this like redeveloped sector. It's right now. It's not too far from Microsoft. It's not too far from Behavior, which is another kind of video game company. Not too far from Ubisoft as well, which is just south of there.
Yeah, and for them to go visit them, I thought was super interesting because Mila is like not overtly known for military work. They've actually been trying to like use AI to do, I would say, like more Montreal-based projects around disability at one point in Montreal. I've seen them try to do things on other types of AI, but they do like civilian. I guess there's civilian and military applications to a fighter jet. Yeah. And if they're going to tap into anybody, they're going to tap into this Quebec-based institute, which brings back this whole argument about how does Swedish economic ties boost Quebec or not. But to me, I thought it was just very interesting that Mila of all places, because if you're a Montrealer, it's like that's just a place where people work. But like
it is just a place people work. It's like that research institute. But I remember, I think it was the anarchists who like broke the windows there because they sort of like didn't like it. It was during one of the May Day marches that it's definitely in the sort of like spotlight for some people. To me, it's no surprise. To me, it makes so much sense that they went there as well because this is kind of like when you look at the actual like rhetoric of what the Swedish kind of like delegations are talking about. It's like I said before. They like to say like us Swedes, we're a small country, but we're smart. They say they're the second biggest innovator in the world after Switzerland. After Switzerland, it's supposed to be Sweden. And they have this big thing about like tech innovation, right?
Yeah.
Being an innovative hub. And that's why they're going to go to places like Mila, right? Because they're like, we're not like the old school like fighter jet developers. We're new school, they want to make the connection between like them and Mila and all the kind of, I mean, the big thing about Saab is that they consider themselves in a similar way to Mila, sort of like cutting edge, right?
Yeah, and Mila's affiliated with UDM.
Yes.
So it's very much a publicly funded institution. It has many students are there, many professors and researchers in Montreal. So it's a lot of Montreal-based talent. And the worry for me is if we start normalizing fighter jet building and AI applications in Montreal, do people in the kind of common mindset just start thinking it's okay because we personally don't feel like we're directly involved in war on everyday people, even though we are. Of
course we are, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? You're talking about our subsidies going into that. And when we talk about subsidies, I mentioned it before, but like The Canadian government.
We pay for the Mila.
Yeah.
That's what I mean to get to.
We pay for Mila. We also pay for what is attracting Saab to Canada, right? Because there's a reason they visit Montreal, and that's because Saab was talking about like if Canada buys these jets, Saab is talking about working with Bombardier, opening up like a tech hub in Montreal, in and around Montreal, because Montreal has like Montreal is like supposedly a top 3 aerospace hub in the world after like competing with either like Seattle, Tacoma, and Toulouse in France. And the whole thing about like Saab coming to Montreal is that thing about how the Canadian government has put so hundreds of millions of dollars into this industry here in Montreal, keeping it alive, keeping it afloat. We have 3 airports now. We have we
have a really big mall.
We have many malls.
we have one really big one.
Yeah. I guess yeah. I mean, I don't know if Saab's gonna set up at the mall.
Schwartz Deli.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know if they're including
They need to feed the jet fighters.
I mean, there is something there about like, I mean, people always try to like, they want to gentrify Montreal with a certain kind of like class of like salaried worker, right? It's like before it was kind of like tech people like Ubisoft and that kind of industry that the city was actively trying to recruit. And now no, exactly. But now it's like they're trying to get even more aerospace stuff here. But like I said, we already have a decent kind of like aerospace sector here. And some of the industries set up in and around Montreal are already doing that kind of like fighter jet work, right? You have like Lockheed Martin who's here. General Dynamics has a place that's not too far. We have some places out in Saint Jean that produce like surveillance equipment. Pratt & Whitney in Longueuil that produces helicopter parts and some engine parts as well. But so you have this kind of like cluster. They always use the word cluster of like different like aerospace industries in and around Montreal. Airbus, of course. Yeah. Airbus that owns a whole like factory up near Mirabel, and that's one of the things that Saab likes, right? Saab when Saab is considering where they want to set up shop, they see Montreal as this place has been invested heavily in by the Canadian government, the Quebec government as well. So if we set up here, we know we can get some of that government money, which is our money, right? And then they're going to be selling it to whoever, they're going to be selling it to United Arab Emirates. They're going to be selling it to Thailand, and they're going to be selling even more planes to Ukraine, and then you have this kind of like cycle that they know that they can like tap into the cycle, which is the industrial military complex cycle, right? Of like sending money to whatever of these foreign countries because they are needing of like fighter jets, and then we get to produce the fighter jet, right? And then we also get the money back, but the money is only going to whoever is working at these companies, right? The engineers and the people who set up there, which is one of the main things. Like one of the things they want to set up here is like 1 or 2 centers in and around Montreal that are just going to have like people doing R&D, people doing training. It's I think they're saying like 10,000. It's probably going to be a little less than that because these are very like, I think these are a little too high skill to be of that level. But I mean, the question is like, do we want our money going into that?
No, and I think I do want to mention something pretty specific about that, which is like, okay, if we're being sold on $10,000 jobs, 10,000 jobs, which Anita Anand, I would say, was also part of these visits. So we should talk about the Canadian end of these visits.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously, Mélanie Joly has been courting this. So Mélanie Joly actually met with them, not here, but earlier in the year elsewhere. And so if we're being sold on $10,000 jobs to build fighter jets, I know things are tough for people right now, the economy. I obviously don't have a lot of grace for that, but like, let me like put myself in other people's shoes. We should ask like, why is the only growth plan on the table weapons? Like I just looked through budget 2025 for an organization I work with to do a budget response. And there's other ways to produce jobs. Yeah, we need so many other jobs in Canada. Saab's promise relies on Canada buying into long-term war production. So sure, 10,000 jobs now, but like, what are the ramifications of long-term war machine investment? We also are like not allegedly actively in any war. We don't have allegedly, like to the everyday Canadian, you ask them, what war are we in? They don't know what to say. We're not at war as Canada.
People might say America.
Yeah. The people are like,
but not an actual.
Anyway.
Hot war.
And so Saab's promise is contingent on Canada buying in, right? We don't have to buy in. Like we could make 10,000 jobs by building more housing. We could make $10,000 jobs by having more climate resiliency. Okay, you don't want to retire a bunch of people who work for the military. Can they learn how to like better fight fire so it's not only firefighters, or we don't like ask for volunteers from other countries? Like Can we like have more childcare workers?
I think
there's a lot of other jobs we could make.
What's also interesting is like you have this emphasis by these people that these are going to create very high salary jobs, right? These very like.
Oh, I doubt it.
No, I do think no, but when you think of like a military like kind of like company, these kinds of engineers doing aerospace stuff, those are usually high paying jobs.
Okay, but how many engineers do we have in Canada that know how to do this?
Well, that's why there's not going to be 10,000.
Yeah, there's not going to be 10,000. Like, I'm sorry, I'm Arab. I know a lot of Egyptian engineers, Besh Muhandis, but like, I'm being so real right now. Most of my friends are engineers who are Arab men.
Sure.
This is all anecdotal but factual.
My point is the point I'm trying to make.
It's not enough.
I think the argument that it's going to be high paying jobs is going to that's good for the economy. I think also doesn't hold up because it's been shown that like when you give $1 to like someone who makes near minimum wage, it creates more money. It adds more money into the economy. Whereas if you give money to people who are already kind of like high salary to make a lot of money, it reduces the amount of money in an actual like flowing economy, right? So the whole thing is like what you actually want is an increase of the floor so people have more purchasing power across the board, not just kind of creating like a special pen for people who are going to be high salaried, because those people are not going to be buying stuff at the same rates or the same volume as people who are of lower incomes. Yeah. So that's the other thing about like when we're having this discussion about what are other ways we can stimulate the economy? I'm saying high paying jobs, an increase of high paying jobs does not do that.
No, not at all, because like social justice doesn't trickle down, it trickles up, or economic justice, right?
Yeah.
So like we deserve economies rooted in, I would say, like life-giving, because like life-taking economies like militarism are not sustainable unless you keep killing others.
No, exactly.
Which is like,
because that's also the investment they're making, right?
Yeah, they're making an investment to kill. Because what's the fighter jet for?
Yeah.
Like,
for this company to continue, we are actively investing in. Okay, we're betting on there's going to be more war. There's going to be more times where we need to be like flying like fighter jets to fight other people who have fighter jets or whatever. Like, kind of create these kinds of like escort formations for bombers and stuff like that, you know. And when you put money into that, you become, as a country, if let's say Saab, let's say Canada buys these jets, ignore the fact that we're already supposed to get like 88 jets from the US from Lockheed Martin. Let's say somehow we cancel that deal, or we have both of these deals going on. We have these companies set up here in Montreal. These people, this industry is actively going to be invested in making sure that the cash keeps flowing. They're going to be actively interested in actively lobbying the Canadian government, other governments, that, hey, guess what? You need this giant machine of war. You need to be at war right now. And that's going to be our interest, you know? And then, I mean, this is like classic, like military and industrial complex stuff, which, of course, I'm saying we are already involved in that, you know? But I think for us to buy these jets and for us to set up shop here is like, now we're even further down the line of not being able to kind of like even enter the conversations about like demilitarization, and as well as, of course, like the kind of like the social costs, right, of these kinds of things. Like the money that goes into this is not money that goes into public transportation. The money that goes into this is not money that goes into like ending homelessness. You know, all these other things have been costed, and they are much better for an economy, much more attainable, and much cheaper than something like buying a bunch of jets and investing in them.
You're right. Like once you build a factory, you just need a system to keep feeding it. It's going to be continuous production. Why is economic production like in Canada right now framed as like buying jets, doing war, making more oil from the tar sands?
And it's also like not relying on the US. That's like the main thing that Carney and them are like saying, right? It's like, oh, if we buy Lockheed Martin's F-35s, which we already have like, I think like 16 of them, they're like saying, well, because Trump is acting like this towards us, we're going to consider other avenues for like flights for like jets, you know. And to the average Canadian, I mean, the whole point is like the average Canadian is being sort of like duped, and they're using this kind of like very real anger towards the trade war, the tariffs, to sort of give consent to something which is like a massive purchase of jets, you know. That it's like the money is going to some other arms dealer instead, you know. And instead of like, they're like, well, at least it's not the American arms dealer. It's like, guess what? It's still an arms dealer.
Yeah, and the whole point, like, Canadians should be asking is, why do we need jets? Like, what are we doing actually in this world? So, like, why do we need jets? Well, also, why is Sweden doing this? So Sweden spent 200 years being neutral. They weren't part of NATO, which we haven't touched on yet.
History lesson.
Their national brand was Ikea, environmentalism. You know, they had a cool filmmaker that I wanted to shout out. Ingmar Bergman. Sorry. I think people should know who he is. He did a lot of depression cinema. He's cool. He has
Swedish?
a cool Wikipedia. Yeah, he's Swedish.
I didn't know that.
Isn't that so cool? I double checked. But in March 2024, and this is when Melanie Jolie started also working with them, which is why I think this is super important. massive shift. Sweden joins NATO, and like diplomatic processes take time.
Of course. I mean, it's already a big deal. I mean, when I saw that they joined NATO, I was like, oh, wow, this kind of ends decades of like neutrality, right?
And of them purporting themselves, as you said in the opening, humanitarian approach to arms exportation,
which is so funny.
So funny. And so I think we also have to name that within the last year and a half, Sweden joined NATO, and Melanie Joly was right there, meeting with them, courting them. And so this is like a liberal agenda to get them here. And they finally came here. So it's a massive shift. So Sweden enters the global defense network. Now they're pushing the export of jets, sensors, weapons, systems. They need foreign partners to expand manufacturing, because how much can they do with just Brazil, you know, South Africa, all these. And in Quebec is perfectly positioned, as you've said. And so Canada is a key market. They've openly said we are open for defense business, and Canada is a key market. And I don't see this stopping, but I think people should be more critical. And I think, you know, there's already protests at like L5 Harris and stuff that happen in Ontario. Like they probably, or L3 Harris, whatever it is. But
sure.
I think it's important to like think about
like a weapons manufacturer.
Yeah. So I think there needs to be more understanding of not falling into a trap that certain countries are actually peacekeeping nations or pieces like that, and like the actual narrative and goals of NATO. Because from March 2024 to now, they're able to come and do this huge deal with us as a nation. That's not a long time.
No, it's so
when
fast.
You think about it.
I mean, because that's the whole thing where like
you join NATO and you're already here. Like,
well, I mean, that's the thing that happens, right? You have the rally around the flag effect, where like if something happens, like war, then it's like it's kind of like it gives the politicians sort of like this kind of like timer where it's like, oh, right now our entire population is thinking about this war, is thinking about whatever injustice is happening. We can use this to build consent for making money for our friends, from getting money into the coffers of arms companies, right? And that's, I mean, they're using this, the rally around the flag effect from like the Trump's tariff stuff with Canada to just build consent to buy jets. You know, it's a thing that like they're being like, it's all the energy towards that is kind of, they're like, okay, well, we just have to make sure the optics reflect people's disappointment with Trump and turn that disappointment into consent for billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars buying Swedish jets, you know. And that's the whole thing. That's why it's been happening so fast, right? Because they know, because once, let's say, Trump's out and the tariff stuff cools down, then it probably would become much harder to talk about buying even more jets, because they're able to use that whole angle of like, oh, the jets, Lockheed Martin is American. America's treating us badly. We shouldn't. First of all, we're not going to travel to America, and we're certainly not going to buy American jets. In fact, we're going to buy other people's jets. And people imagine it as a big like FU to America. It's like, take that. We're buying someone else's jets. But it's like, I said, guys, take a step back. We don't need these jets. You know, we already said this before, but we don't need these jets. It's not really a big FU to America, because already so many of the supply chains for these jets will still rely on American companies. You know, it's a show. It's all a show.
Yeah, exactly. And for Montrealers, like, I want people to understand that we already make F-35 parts that are complicit in the genocide that's ongoing right now. And so Canada has long played a quiet, essential role and guilt-free accessory in many wars since before what's been happening, especially in Quebec. So we actually help build a lot of components. So like landing gear systems, which get built in Laval in the Montreal region, cockpit displays, avionics, like also Montreal, electrical harnesses, wiring systems, composite fuselage components, engine and propulsion parts. Dyslexic is so hard for me. Navigation and sensor integration, software targeting systems. And so we are, like you said, perfectly positioned to expand and embrace a bigger role. And there's a major Quebec piece, so like propellants industry, General Dynamics, Canada, explosives, propellant for artillery shells. So Canadian bullets have been going to Gaza. Missile propellant chemicals, energetic materials used in multiple NATO munitions, components that feed directly into U.S. weapons systems. If you've taken a flight to Europe or anywhere and you've had a layover in the U.S., there's actually chances that military parts were in your plane, in the cargo. Wow. And Labor has done a really great campaign. So that's why I
can't bring luggage?
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess, yeah. Like, that's why they're charging for us.
Unbelievable.
But It's important to know this because I think Canadians often point fingers to the US the way you're talking about it now.
Yeah.
Whether it's like in this arms deal of like we're going to buy from Sweden. So I don't think people understand that this pipeline has been really outlined by the Hot Cargo campaign. Labor has really done a great job also, and all of the organizations I named earlier that were part of, so CJPME, I think Jewish Voices Birth Peace.
Hot Cargo specifically naming like what was it, cargo ships and different carriers that might have or that do have rather weapons of war or pieces of whatever war machine.
Yeah, and there's actually Canadian complicity in Sudan right now as well.
Right, yeah.
Which I think is very important to name and often forgotten. And so materials that are routinely shipped to the US and then they enter the F-35 supply chain, and this is because of a legal loophole. So when you hear the politicians say, Carney included, Anita Anand, Melanie Joly, I think even Chrystia Freeland in one interview and Justin Trudeau saying, no, like that's actually not true, blah, blah, blah. No, actually, it's been fully reported. You can find it on Palestinian Youth Movement Montreal's Linktree, as well as CJPME's Linktree, Arms Embargo Now, World Beyond War. But I really support, obviously, we're in Montreal, Palestinian Youth Movement Montreal, doing amazing work. The supply train, the parts that don't get tracked, the pipeline's actually Quebec factories. They go to U.S. assembly lines. Then they get assembled into F-35 jets. Then they go to Israel, and then Israel uses them on Gaza. And that's the direct supply chain. Right now with Sudan, there's a similar supply chain happening, actually. It's a newer report that's coming out, but there's quite a few Sudan pages, and I think you had Duha on as well.
Yep.
And so I think it's important to understand that if you care about these causes, you should also understand what's happening here, and the supply chain is coming from here. So there's actually 47 plus Canadian linked shipments that do this. To Israeli weapons firms or the U.S. and go into the supply chain or help the UAE suppress Sudan as well. So this is why weapons manufacturing in Montreal matters. And it's just going to increase if we do this deal with
Sweden. Of course,
Sweden.
yeah, because the whole argument is going to be, oh, now we have even more capacity, even more industrial capacity to produce these kinds of jets. We're going to be sending them to other places as well, right? Saab is already selling them to the UAE. They're using those, they're not warplanes, but they're surveillance planes, right? And but they're active, like the UAE actively use those planes in that Saudi-led coalition assault on Yemen against the Houthis, right? They're actually
that's
using
another great place to name.
No, exactly.
Yemen.
And that's where they're already buying. So these Saab planes are already affecting Yemenis, right? Because they're in the UAE. They're about to be sold to Pakistan. Well, this is the interesting thing, right? We're talking about like all this kind of stuff that's happening. We mentioned the humanitarian stuff. Sweden was like, we care about human rights. We're not going to sell to countries that
Say this part. Yeah.
disrespect human rights. And so far, the only sale I've seen that was sort of blocked by the Swedish government was Pakistan. Pakistan wanted some fighter jets, and then the Swedish government was like, no, not you.
Because
You have a guess?
India.
Because India. Well, okay. So I
We have to protect.
Specifically, because they were considering of selling to India as well.
Oh, so they were like...
They're like, well, we want to sell to India as well. And you guys are kind of like, maybe a little harder to like... They're also going to buy less jets than India can because it's a...
Did they land on one?
No.
It sounds like they have two situationships and they got to pick one.
You're right.
They got to get serious with one.
They should send the Swedish royal family to Pakistan.
And then India.
And
let them drink tap water.
Yeah. All right, settle down.
I'm allowed to say that. I am. My last name is Khan.
You're right.
I actually am.
But I mean, I guess you have this interesting kind of like worlds colliding, right? And the worlds of like, let's say the Canadian aerospace industry, which has been like subsidized for years, kind of like kept alive since before World War I here in Montreal. And now it's sort of meeting this kind of Swedish one that likes to say, hey, because it's both very liberal approaches of like, listen, we're going to make arms. Of course, we're going to make warplanes, but we're going to do it morally. And I think what Nashwa and I are trying to paint the whole episode is like, I don't think there is a way to really morally make warplanes.
No, and warplanes only serve one purpose, right? Like warplanes are never, also this is bad anyways, but they're never dropping aid.
Yeah.
And dropping aid kills people.
Also.
But they're not dropping aid.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit about how Montreal is quietly becoming a weapons and military tech hub. We're like losing that kind of people are like, oh, you live in Montreal. Like you guys are so progressive.
Yeah.
The bagels,
You guys,
the socialism.
Yeah, so right now.
And I'm like, no, we have a conservative mayor who
Correct.
loves being conservative. Mm-hmm. We have a conservative premier.
Yep.
We have
Center right.
a conservative we have multiple conservative or liberal MPs who love war.
Big Israel fans.
Yes. Yes, they love it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what
yeah.
else do we have?
I don't know where you want me to
We
go
have a lot
with
of
this.
austerity. Okay, I thought you were ready. Okay.
Nah, my bad, folks. That was,
So
my,
anyways,
my blunder.
Montreal's becoming a NATO-adjacent weapons microcluster. I think you had a few more things to say about soft war nationcraft, statecraft, and this deal. No?
I mean, let me speak on that real quick. So I think we're sort of seeing this kind of shift, right? It's like these things are always very slow. It's never all at once until it is. But it's always like, before Montreal in like, let's say like 90s, early 2000s, cultural hub, there's no industry here. The referendum scared off big industry. One of the ones that did survive was the aerospace sector here in Montreal because it was just super subsidized. And the boom in the 80s with Bombardier was just big enough to sort of like make everyone coast. And then eventually Pratt & Whitney landed here too. And it was kind of like enough to keep the industry here alive. So they're one of the few industries that actually like really like has bolstered since globalization and since all the other big like manufacturing has left Montreal. And so what you have is like this old version of Montreal that we kind of always talk about on the show about the cultural Montreal, the kind of like nightlife Montreal, all the artists, the poets, the musicians. That's going away. If this kind of stuff continues, eventually those people, as they are already being, are going to be priced out, and all that's going to be left are going to be the Saab tech bros that you're going to be roaming out in the Old Port or wherever they're going to be living, and talking about these jets and stuff like that. And you have this kind of version of Montreal that's like, you have rents going up, and the version of Montreal that all these subsidies from the federal government, these subsidies from the Quebec government are the version of Montreal that's trying to be made is one where Montreal is
By Soraya.
We'll see, right? She just got in. I don't know what she's gonna be doing.
Why
so
are you
far.
doing that?
No, because because I can't point at anything for this kind of stuff specifically. it's no
Read her
defense of her.
comms, King.
It's no defense of her.
Okay.
Will I be surprised? No, but
Okay.
it hasn't happened yet, so
You're
I
like
can't.
a really
I can't.
real prove me wrong.
Nah, I'm not Stephen Crowder. He's the main preview wrong guy. The whole thing is that you have Montreal sort of becoming this kind. I mean, Montreal has already been like this civilian kind of like aerospace tech hub. They got the the organization for like civil airlines, the OSCE, right? Square Victoria OSCE. You have them who stayed here.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. But that's kind of part of this kind of version, right? But the thing is like you have
integrated into our everyday life.
All this civil aviation stuff that exists right next to military aviation stuff. It's not like people like to put like we can't like just.
Well, they're like this right now.
Exactly. Look at that. Look, show the camera. That's them. That's the civil. And that's the military avionics stuff, because it's like even the civil stuff, it can be retooled for military purposes so easily. And if Saab comes here, expect more of that happening, and expect Montreal to become more of a military city. And personally, I don't want that, and hopefully our viewers don't want that either. I don't know.
Well, it's going to be Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. Like it's going to be every major city in Canada will be tainted by this Saab plan, apparently.
Oh yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah, and so public money should be invested elsewhere, like we've been talking about. And I just want to also like give a shout out to like Anita Anand did a hard push for F-35 procurement before the government changed in the South, and championed defense expansion, repeatedly praised Canadian aerospace job creators. And Melanie Jolie always talked about us as defending democracy through the planes. And she's our elected official. She is an elected official of Quebec and has been, and she's a Quebecer. And while Canada maintains these export loopholes every time they've been questioned, they've been like, no, we're not doing that. But there's that pipeline that I clearly laid out of how the weapons get around. So Canada acts also like Sweden, like a peacekeeping nation while we're building weapons like this. And I think people just need to be more literate about it and walk away from this episode understanding that actually we are complicit. When you have a conversation with somebody and they say, we're not like America, we're not like XYZ warmonger nation, we're not complicit in this. No, we actually are.
It's our responsibility to point it out and to resist these kinds of jet purchases. Inform yourselves from other people around you. See who knows about this stuff going on, because it's surprisingly not a lot of people are talking about this, but hopefully it's going to change after this episode comes out.
Yeah. So again, we're not exporting poutine. We're exporting landing gear, cockpit systems, avionics, explosives, propellant, other pieces. And now we might even export jets in full.
In full.
In full, no longer pieces. So we're going to escalate actually with this Swedish deal.
Exactly. That's sort of the main concern. And the question is that what you want your Montreal to be about? You want more of that? Personally, I don't. Personally, I want people to be fed, people to have roofs over their heads. Instead, we're putting more jets off into the air to police the world, and we shouldn't stand for that.
Yeah, and I think it starts with just not being weird about being Canadian.
Don't be weird. Don't let your anger towards the U.S. and what's happening there create consent for us buying these jets from some corrupt company that is bribing people and also shutting down corruption investigations about it. Thank you very much, Nashwa, for coming on the air talking about this. Where can people follow you? Read about the work you're doing.
You can find me on Substack at habibtiplease.substack.com. You can also find me on Twitter, but the house is a little locked right now at Nashwa K, NASHWAKAY. Yeah, I don't tweet a lot anymore, but Habibti Please is the better place. And I send out a newsletter that goes along with my episodes. And I try to also give a reading list. So I'm not just like yapping. I try to be an educational yapper. So if you really feel like having more kind of, I don't know, anti-imperialist, feminist, decolonial takes, I try to put out some episodes. I have a really good one coming out with an Indigenous elder soon. Yeah.
Exciting. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Dear viewers, that's it for today. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the Swedish royal family, suspicious connections to the Nazi party in Sweden, as well as how they are coming to Montreal, not to visit our cool spots, but instead to...
yeah, they didn't go to Schwartz. They didn't go to St. Viator, Bagels. They didn't...
None of your spots.
They didn't go to Olympico.
They didn't even talk about, like, CUTV.
They didn't go to that, like, that donut place. They didn't go to the place Katy Perry and...
Bernie Bang. Oh, yeah, Violon.
Where Trudeau and Katy Perry went on a date.
Le Violon. Yep. Yeah. They're not going to any of those Michelin star places. Listen, they're here.
Le Pen.
Vaimont Le Pen. Well, okay.
Okay.
That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Anyways, thank you very much for listening, watching. Stay tuned for more stuff. Thank you very much.